welcome to this week's episode of the Savvy Flipper Show. I'm your host and business strategist, Claire Rose, and this is Larry Vanderhoof, our resident expert and construction manager.
Good morning.
Are you ready to get started?
I'm ready.
Okay, so today let's start with some flipping tips for you. All right, we're going to talk about curb appeal, aren't we?
Curb appeal.
Okay, so what is curb appeal?
Well, curb appeal is actually, simply put, is the decorative side of the exterior of your house, beautification, the yards and whatnot.
Okay, so how it looks from the curb, right?
Exactly.
Curb appeal,
Yep.
how it looks from the curb. So that's the first thing that we see when we drive up to some property.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that so important?
Well, basically, it gets people to stop is one thing. You know, when they see a house that has a for sale sign in the front yard, and it looks like it's beautifully manscaped, first of all, it's going to attract their attention.
Sure.
And so there's a higher probability that they're going to want to look further into the inside. So that's really the biggest reason for curb appeal. The other one is obviously it offers added value to the property.
Yes. And as flippers, that's super important to us because our bottom line is really what's important, right?
Correct. Yeah.
That's what matters the most. Okay, not the most maybe, but money in our pocket when we're done flipping, that matters. So we need to talk about that. Okay, so let's break down curb appeal. So we're saying it's the people who pull up and go, wow, this is beautiful, right? The woman, this is beautiful. Or the guy says, man, this landscaping's awesome, right? Aside from that, how as flippers can we break that down and know what we can do about it?
Well, there's actually three categories when it comes to curb appeal.
Okay.
You've got landscaping, which everybody knows what that is. There is hardscape, and then there's actually the envelope of the house itself, which includes painting, roofing, gutters, fascia, the like. Okay,
so let's start with landscape and talk about landscape, the parts or elements of landscape and what we can do from a curb appeal standpoint.
Okay, well, landscape is exactly what it sounds like. Predominantly, most people think about landscaping as flower beds, that type of thing, the plants in the flower beds and whatnot. But it also includes the yard itself, the grass. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. If it's well manicured and whatnot, shows off well on the house. You might have trees on the property that need to be trimmed up and cleaned up and whatnot. So these are all very important things when it comes to showboating your house.
The curb appeal.
Right.
So let's talk about grass first. If it's in decent shape, you can just mow it. What if it's not so decent?
Well, probably the best thing to do would be to just bring in sod. It's not that expensive, and it's fairly quick to do. Most sod projects can be done for anywhere from 60 to 90 cents a square foot for sod, and that includes labor, removal of the old stuff, and once it's down, basically you've got instant yard.
Instant, brand new, beautiful grass.
Yeah.
Okay, so a company comes in, removes your old stuff, preps it, and rolls out a new or however they do it, I don't know.
Right.
However they do that, roll it out, slap it down, whatever it is. They just put it down, and voila, you have a new yard.
Correct. There's things that are going to come into play. It's going to need plenty of water, so somebody is going to have to be there every day to water this. So whether that's the person that's actually flipping the house, or if they have a project manager on site that's going to take care of that, so it will absolutely need to be
watered
maintained
every day
Yep.
for a while.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if you're a flipper, you should be there every day checking on your property anyway, right?
Well, I would think so.
Right? Or you have a construction manager, somebody in place who's going to take care of those things for you that you trust, that's going to manage that for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so beyond lawn and trees that we're going to trim, what else? Let's talk about the flower beds.
Well, the flower beds are pretty straightforward. I mean, you want to make sure that they're weeded, they're not full of weeds and whatnot, and that they're thinned out. You may even end up bringing in some inexpensive shrubbery type things. I wouldn't get carried away with the flowery types of plants, just because somebody buys it, maybe they don't like roses, or maybe they don't like
Who doesn't like
hibiscus.
roses?
Well, some
Honestly.
people. So
Okay.
just bring in some kind of a colorful shrub and to
Okay.
fill any empty spots and whatnot. And then once that's done, then bring in some new beauty bark and fill it up. And once again, you want to stay away from things like the rocks or rubber beauty bark or any
Okay.
of that kind of stuff. Just go in with something simple in case the new buyers want to replace it with
Sure.
something that fits their
Okay,
needs.
yeah. If you want to come in with like crushed shells or something in case they come in and go, ew, and that's
Yeah.
much harder to clean
Yeah,
up, something
exactly.
like that. Okay, that makes good sense to me. So anything else in the landscape, or can we move on to lawn or hardscape?
Yeah,
That
I
sounds
think
like it?
I think
Okay.
that's pretty much it for as far as landscaping is
Okay,
concerned.
so let's talk about hardscape. What are you talking about when you say hardscape?
Well, it can be anything from the apron leading into the garage. Does it have some massive cracks or breaks out of it that need to be attended to? Maybe it's the sidewalk leading to the front door, or
Okay.
maybe it's pavers leading to the front door. Whatever
Okay.
the case may be. First and foremost, you probably want to have them pressure washed and cleaned
Okay.
up. Then if
Get the
there's
green off there.
Yep, yep. If there's any missing pavers, have them replaced. Cracks of course, anytime you're dealing with concrete, you're going to be dealing with cracks.
Oh,
But what I'm
sure.
speaking of specifically is large cracks or breaks, chunks out of the concrete itself, where
So
you may have to
displacement and
sure
things.
you may have
Okay.
to have somebody come in there with a concrete saw and cut out a section and replace it.
Okay, that makes good sense. So that just has a nice, tidy look to it.
Right,
So what
right.
happens if the pavers are pretty old? You clean them up and they look pretty decent, but there's some that are cracked, but you can't find them at the local.
Can't find
yeah, you
something
can't
that
find the
matches what you
replacement,
have.
right?
Well,
you can't have
interestingly
5 that are
enough,
different.
What I would do if it were me, I would probably go down and find some pavers that you like that are the same style that you have, and then maybe buy a dozen or two or whatever number it takes, and just kind of sporadically place them through the
Okay.
sidewalk so that it looks like it was intended to be that way.
Okay.
So
So,
that's
like I meant to do that,
yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
I
yeah.
came just that
How
way.
clever.
How clever. That's right. Okay. So we talked about sidewalks, driveway, pavers. Anything else in the hardscape that you can think of?
Typically not. We're talking about the visual front of the property as you're driving up, so that's predominantly what you're
Okay.
seeing. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the last one that you mentioned, which was envelope. And so some people might not know what you mean by envelope. What do you mean?
The envelope is the exterior portion of the house, your siding or your block walls or
Okay.
your fascias and your gutters and your roof and anything on the exterior of the house that may need to be addressed.
Okay. So siding. What should we do to the siding?
It depends on the type of siding. A lot of your wood sidings, they don't hold their paint nearly as well as a block wall
Okay.
might. So if there's a lot of blistering and chipping of paint and that kind of thing, you may have to pressure wash it and repaint the
Repaint.
entire body of the house.
Okay.
Block walls, you're probably going to be able to get away with just pressure washing
washing.
and cleaning it up. However, if the paint on the wood is in good condition, then again you can probably get away with just pressure washing.
Pressure washing it.
Yeah.
So there is something to be said though for a fresh coat of paint
Oh,
and how it just
absolutely.
kind of crisps things up, right?
Absolutely, yep.
Everyone loves fresh coat of paint, a fresh color.
Yep, and using an accent color on your fascias and your trimmer on your windows and things
Okay.
like that's kind of a nice feature as well. However, I would caution that you kind of take it easy with the colors that you select, because again, you're
Are you
selling this
speaking to me?
to somebody who isn't going to live in the house.
Okay.
And so if you paint it green or blue or some weird
Orange
color,
or-
yeah,
yeah, okay.
they may end up having to say, well, we like the house, but we'd have to have the whole thing repainted.
Right.
And then that kind of is a check mark
Money,
against you.
right?
Yep,
Sure,
yep,
right.
yep.
We're trying to flip this house.
Yep. So
and
just
make
stay
maximum
neutral with your
profits.
colors and do a nice accent and you'll be
Okay.
golden, yeah.
Okay. And then, of course, checking with if there's a homeowners association, being sure that you're compliant
Absolutely.
with the
Yep,
homeowners
yep,
association
yep.
before you paint. Otherwise, they may show up and say, "Excuse me, you didn't have permission to paint it that color,"
Yep.
and then you'll be painting it again, which is Money out of your pocket.
Yep.
So that makes good sense. Okay, so we talked about exterior paint. You mentioned gutters and fascia. We're not going to paint the gutters, right? We just pressure wash them. Can you pressure wash those?
Yeah, you can pressure wash them. Some people have painted them, but paint just doesn't hold up well on gutters.
Okay.
You want to clean the fascia boards and paint them up and whatnot.
Okay.
And it's true that a lot of houses here in Florida, for whatever reason, they don't even have gutters, so that might
Crazy
not be an
town.
issue. But if they do, you want to make sure that you've cleaned out the gutter.
Sure.
Is a good step to make, and make sure that the gutters are cleaned up, all the green slimes off of them, that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, that makes good sense. Okay, so then the last piece of envelope then is your roof. Talk to us about the roof piece.
Well, the roof is probably where the vast majority of your exterior funds are going to go. A lot of people, they want to. They talk about staying away from doing too much to the outside because the money could be better spent on the inside, but
Sure.
I think that's a mistake, especially when it comes to a roof. And my rule of thumb with roofing is if you've got a roof that's 20 years old or older, you probably really need to consider just having it replaced.
That makes sense.
There are insurance companies out there that won't even insure a house if they've got a roof that's 20 years old or older.
Ah,
If it's, between 15 and 18 years old, then you want to take a good hard look at it. The easiest thing to do is do a self-inspection. If you know what you're looking at or looking for, curled up edges on composition roof tile, that's the
Okay.
3-tab, and the architectural. Are there streaks in it where it looks like the granules have been washed away?
okay.
Don't
That
ever get
means
up on a
old.
roof and pressure wash your composition roof.
Okay. Note to self.
That's
Okay.
that's a for sure sign that you need to replace your roof now.
And you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then there's the tile roofs. Tile roof for the most part, unless you've got broken tile, you can get away with just simply pressure washing those, and that really can make a property pop, because after tile has been up there for a while, it gets that dingy
Kinda
look
slimy
to
look.
it, and yep,
Okay.
and you wash them off. You get
That's
somebody up there who knows what they're doing.
Definitely a job for a professional,
Absolutely.
right? Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Be up there breaking
Yep,
tiles,
yep, yep,
falling
so-
off the roof,
Yep,
killing yourself.
exactly.
And then, of course, you haven't mentioned it, and I don't know that we've seen them here in Florida, but somewhere else in the nation, they might find shingles.
Yeah, you can
Shingle
find
roofing.
cedar shingles in parts of the country. You can find metal roofs in parts of the country.
okay, yeah.
So there are several different types of roofs. You just need to do a little bit of investigative research online or what have you, and see what's said. But most of the time, most of the roofs you can get away with a good pressure wash.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Unless they really
Yeah.
just need to be replaced.
Right, right.
Okay. And then, of course, people who are interested, you have a course that called Flipping by the Numbers, which talks about the numbers side and the inspecting side
Yeah,
of.
Yeah, we
of
do.
doing
We
flipping
and we
as
go
well.
into some pretty in-depth detail as to the cost of different products and different
How to figure it out,
applications
yeah.
and interior and exterior things and whatnot. And I might also add that what we're talking about today is basically for the quick flip, somebody who's bought a house and they want to spend 30 days to get in and get out. So
okay.
that's where curb appeal can really, really benefit you. The extended flippers, the ones that want to go in and do everything on the outside and then go do everything on the inside, remove cabinets and replace them with granite countertops and flooring and all that kind of stuff.
Full-on rehab.
Right. Curb appeal is still important, but in my opinion, I think curb appeal really pops when you're doing that
The
quick
quick flip.
flip, because
Yeah.
a lot of stuff can kind of be overlooked if the place is really pretty on the outside.
Yeah, yeah. When you show up and go, ooh,
Right.
this, I could live here. Okay, that makes good sense. Okay, so I think we've covered all of the curb appeal stuff, but I know that you wanted to show us a tool of the week that is going to be important if you are doing a flip. So tell me what your tool of the week is.
Well, the tool I brought with me today is just a measuring stick, and it's got a handle that extends. It's a measuring wheel that you can walk behind. This comes in particularly handy when you're measuring that landscape stuff, your sidewalks in your yard and your roof line and whatnot. So it comes in very handy. It's a lot easier than trying to pull a tape measure out. And
Especially if you're there alone.
Correct.
right?
Absolutely.
So you just start at one side of the lawn, wheel it to the other end, and look at the numbers.
Yep.
See,
And then
even I
press
could
the-
do
And then
this.
press the little button.
Press
and
the
it goes
little
back to
button,
zero,
resets to 0.
and then go the other way, and then multiply them together. And
There,
gives
right?
you your square footage.
This times
Yep.
this is,
Yep.
right? And so how would you use that on a roof?
Well, with a roof, if you're measuring a roof, typically what I'll do is I'll walk the width and the length of the house and get that number, and then whatever that is, let's say it's 2,000 square foot, because you've gone down and you've gone across and you've determined that the footprint of the house is 2,000 square feet. That kind of gives you something to go off of as far as pricing your roof. Typically, I would tell people to add at least 20% to that number
okay.
because of your gables and your dormers and your, your valleys,
The
the
rise
pitch,
and all-
yeah,
okay,
the
that
pitch
makes
of the
good
roof, your
sense.
rise and your runs and all that. So whatever that square foot happens to be, and you probably already know what the square foot of the house is anyway if you bought it, or at
Probably.
least you should.
You should. If you've done your job as a
Yep.
flipper.
And then just give yourself a 20% buffer, and
Okay.
that should put you pretty darn close as to what it's going to cost you
Okay.
to replace that roof.
Okay. And then especially in the beginning that you just need a close enough, right?
Right,
Eventually
right.
you want to crunch
Yeah,
good numbers
yeah.
before you actually
And
start.
again,
but
we
in the
go
beginning.
into detail with the pricing of different roofing materials and things like that.
In the flipping by
And-
the numbers
yeah.
course. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, do you feel ready to flip something? Do you feel ready? Are you prepared for getting your curb appeal just right? I'm speaking to you, you new savvy flippers out there. I'm going to talk about something not as fun, right? If you're a flipper, you likely got into flipping because you love the process, or maybe it's just about your bottom line, money in your pocket. Whatever the reason was that you decided to become a flipper, as a newbie flipper, there's something I think that I see a lot of that concerns me, and that's people not treating it like a business. You need to treat your flipping business like a business. So what do I mean by treating it like a business? Larry, have you ever had somebody hand you a business card that looked like it had been homemade?
You mean the perforated,
The
tear
perforated,
out and print
yes.
yourself type cards?
Right? I went to Office Depot
A
and
few times.
and
few times.
what do you think when somebody hands you a business card that's perforated?
Well, I understand that some people, that they're on a tight budget and whatnot, but there's not a whole lot of professionalism in a situation
Exactly.
like that. So,
Exactly. It doesn't feel professional, and
Right,
that's the point that I'm trying to make. This is super basic, super basic. There's lots of things that we could talk about when we talk about treating it like a business and professionalism, but at a minimum, think about meeting somebody a business person for the first time, and the business card that they hand you. If you don't have a business card, I mean, that's basic. That's super basic. So get yourself a business card. On that business card should be a dedicated phone number for your business, right? You don't need your phone number on your business card going to your person unless you specify this is, a cell number. It just doesn't look professional. Get yourself a dedicated phone number for your flipping business, right? One that goes just to, if you don't answer, just to a voicemail that says, "Hi, you've reached. Here's how, leave me a message and I'll get back with you." That's how it works in the professional world. If you've never been in business, this may not be intuitive for you. You may not realize, oh, I'm not putting my best foot forward from a business savvy standpoint, but getting yourself a dedicated phone number and then email addresses. So this one always gets me. When I see somebody's business card and they have whoever they are at AOL, like I didn't even know they still existed, or even having it at Yahoo, or having an email at Gmail. That's not what a professional company does. Say you worked for, Bass Pro Shop. Your email is not at Gmail. It's whoever you are at Bass Pro Shop. Or if you worked for Starbucks, your email is probably, Clara at Starbucks. It's not Clara at Gmail. So just think about the professionalism when you're setting up your email. And it's super easy to get a professional email, right? Super easy.
Yeah.
All you need is a domain name, which you can buy from anywhere. GoDaddy, Google, Namecheap, a bunch of different places you can get a domain name, and then set up an email address at your domain name.
Well,
Super
a lot
simple.
of people don't understand that. They don't even know how to go about doing something like that. So that's kind of the issue with a lot of people.
And that's true. There's some truth to that. So that is part of the course that I offer, Savvy Business Basics, which helps people who are like, I have no clue how to do these pieces. There's some training available for you if you're interested in that, of course. But I'm here to say it is not difficult. And with a little Googling, you can probably even figure those pieces out for yourself. Some of the pieces that people don't necessarily think about might be, all right, I have a domain name, but I'm not ready for a website. Or as a flipper, I don't think I even need a website. That's okay. Maybe point the domain name at your Facebook page. Or maybe just set up a one-page website that just says, hey, if you're looking to sell your property, I'm looking to buy your property. Let's talk. Something really basic and really simple that gives people, when they see, oh, Clara at clararose.com, I could find Clara at clararose.com, and they look me up. They're like, oh, look, Clara Rose has a website. Look at all the things that Clara Rose offers. Clara offers training and teaching. It feels professional, looks professional, super important in helping you to treat your flipping business like a business and have the perception on the other side of things being one that's professional.
Well,
Super important.
what about the legal side of business?
That's a great question. There's another thing that I find often with new flippers that they think, oh, I'm just going to flip houses. So they don't do anything for protecting themselves and their personal assets against potential lawsuits. Right? So I think it's super important that you have an entity that you create for your flipping business. Right? So for instance, our entity is ARC Property Investors. So our entity, our business as flippers is ARC Property Investors. And that's a corporation. So you could have a standard corporation, you could have an S corporation, you could have an LLC. There's a number of different ways you can go, but that entity then helps protect and shelter your own personal assets against liability and litigation should something happen. Now, I have never had this happen. I've never known someone to have this happen, but in one of the real estate groups where I'm hanging out these days, this did happen to somebody. They had a contractor that they hired to flip a property, fell off the roof, broke his back, and sued them, right? So if you don't have a corporation for them to sue, of course there was insurance involved and all of those kinds of things, but without a corporation involved to help protect your personal assets, that lawsuit would have been against that person directly, and their own assets, their own home and cars and their, whatever, that was all in jeopardy because if he wins in a lawsuit, he could get awarded money and it could come from your assets. So the judge could say, oh, you get to sell your own house and pay your assets, that money over to this person who won the lawsuit. So we live in a litigious society, unfortunately, and I think it's smart. It's savvy. It's business savvy to protect yourself with a legal entity. I think that's super important. Good point, Larry.
And to
Absolutely.
save your assets.
Save your assets. You scared me for just a minute there. Yes, family show. Yeah, save your assets from potential harm. So if you're interested in learning more about saving your assets, absolutely you're going to be interested in checking out the program that we have, and we will send that to you. We'll give you that website in just a minute. It is a combination of our two programs. So Larry has Flipping by the Numbers, where he talks about all the things that you're going to need to know if you're a brand new flipper. If you've been flipping for a while, you still can find some really great stuff that Larry's put together, all centered around his really more than 30 years worth of construction experience. Oh, it can't be 30 years because he's not that old, right? And then he also worked as an inspector. So all of the things that you're going to need to know about doing an inspection yourself, plus if you need to hire an inspector, what things you can expect from them. So he covers all those things in Flipping by the Numbers. And then I cover all of the business stuff, all the business savvy, business basics that you're going to need to know as a new flipper. If you've been flipping for a while and you haven't done some of those basics, you absolutely need to hop into our next workshop. Let me tell you where you can find it. You're going to go to beflippingsavvy.com, beflippingsavvy.com, and you can sign up to be a part of our next workshop. So it's a free workshop. We're going to spend a few hours with you telling you all about the basics that you're going to need as a new flipper. You know, when we start, we all start somewhere. And unless you've had some good training on the basics, you can find yourself in a pickle, and a little bit of a pickle. So protect yourself, protect your assets, protect your own future by learning what you need to do to protect yourself. We talk about insurance and carrying costs and all the things that are important when you're a brand new or a newer flipper, for sure. So
We'll share with you most of the stuff that you'll never see on the DIY shows
yeah.
on HGTV.
Oh, can you say that? I don't know if we can say that.
Well, I just
You already
did.
did. Yeah. So there's lots of really great shows out there that show you the befores and the afters, and there's lots of people out there teaching, you know, how to wholesale and, you know, how to negotiate and some of those pieces that what we really find missing in the market, and which was our endeavor to fill that gap for you, is real education about doing self-inspections or use an inspector, real education about how to get good, tight numbers when you're flipping a house, real numbers for negotiation purposes, and then really good, solid business basics about how to treat your flipping business like a business, how to set yourself up to be successful, put more money in your pocket at the end of every flip, and how to protect your assets along the way. So we encourage you, invite you to be a part of our next workshop. Again, you can find that at beflippingsavvy.com. Just get registered for the next one. Every 30 days, 45 days, something like that, we do another workshop for you, and we'd just love to have you in that free workshop. So we're just about out of time. This was fun.
Learn how to stop leaving money on the table.
Yes, don't leave money on the table. And you can do that by learning how you can be flipping savvy. We will see you guys next week, same time, same place.